Hello and welcome to the Spark of Ages podcast. Today's guest is Elay Cohen. Elay is the CEO and co-founder of SalesHood, an AI-driven sales enablement platform. As CEO and co-founder of SalesHood, Elay is on a mission to empower sales and marketing teams to go to market smarter and faster. Prior to SalesHood, Elay held key roles at Salesforce and Oracle. As Salesforce's SVP of sales productivity, he helped scale revenues from $300 million to $3 billion. That's a 10x effect, and co-pioneered sales empowerment with Mark Benioff. Elay is a recognized leader in the sales industry, having been named Salesforce's Executive of the Year in 2011 and acknowledged by Entrepreneur Magazine and LinkedIn as the top innovative mover and shaker in sales leadership and one of the world's top sales experts. He's also the author of the best-selling book, Enablement Mastery, and SalesHood, How Winning Sales Managers Inspire Sales Teams to Succeed, sharing his insights on effective sales strategies. Elay is also a graduate from the University of Toronto and the Schulich School of Business. Some of the key takeaways you can expect from this episode: the sales enablement landscape and what Elay Cohen did to start SalesHood, what it takes to scale revenue and what it took Elay to pioneer sales enablement at Salesforce, key skills for virtual and digital sales, how to leverage AI in sales enablement. So Elay, welcome to the Spark of Ages.
Great to be here. Sounds like we got a lot to cover.
We got a lot to cover.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. I know you pretty well over the last few years. You and I have been done a lot of events together. More recently, we are co-founders with our close friend AJ, who did one of the early episodes with us with the Go-to-Market Leadership Society, so called GLS, where we have all kinds of events for the community. And you're, of course, handling the sales and revenue side. I'm handling more of the marketing side. So it's been super fun working with you.
Super fun. It's been great to get to know you and your team. And just, it's the Go-to-Market Society is a special group. I'm happy to have co-founded it with you.
That's right. We love starting things and building community with it. So Let's talk about this. What unmet need in the sales enablement landscape did you identify? Like, what got you to leave Salesforce and really embark on this entrepreneurial journey with SalesHood? Because, I mean, you're an executive rising up, stock prices exploding. What got you to go start your own business in this space?
Yeah. Listen, there are moments in time when you see something and you see a white space in the market, and that was my moment of clarity where I thought, okay, there's a real opportunity here to bring to market a turnkey, scalable sales enablement solution, a SaaS platform to ultimately deliver to the world what we did at Salesforce, right? So I'll tell you a quick story. At Salesforce, we pioneered sales enablement. And, every month we were hiring reps. Every quarter we'd add more reps. And we were always trying to bring down the amount of time it would take to ramp teams. Think about it. If we could get our salespeople hitting quota faster, what would happen? They would close more deals. And if they closed more deals, what would happen? The Salesforce stock would go up because we were reporting contracts and subscribers at the time. So there was a direct correlation between ramp time of salespeople and the stock price. So we had that mapped down. And so that was why, Mark and I, we worked closely and we were doing some real innovative things around sales enablement, things like standing and delivering, meaning like getting salespeople to practice their pitch, to be able to get certified on their pitches. And we were doing a lot of these innovative sales enablement programs, training, coaching, pitch practice, playbooks. And Mark's vision was, want to make sure everybody's on message, meaning he wants, wherever Mark was around the world, whatever deal he was talking about, whichever customer he was meeting, he wanted to make sure the sales team were saying the same thing, right? That was the essence, alignment, Rajiv, like alignment. And so how do you deliver alignment at scale, right? And so the story for me is, it's back in 2011, 2012. I left early 2013. Yeah. And one of my teams was the Executive Briefing Center, right? That was one of the teams that I ran. And executives would come in all the time, and I was the exec that would welcome them. And they always asked me the same question: how are you getting your teams on message? How are you growing so fast? How? And we would tell them the story, like what they would do in boot camp, what they would do with their teams. And then they would look at me and say, wait a minute, how many people do you have on your team, Eli? And I'd say, well, about 120 people on the enablement team. And they go, oh,
Yeah.
we only have one or two people. And so that became kind of apparent to me that we needed to deliver the same best practices of sales enablement that we're doing at Salesforce, but we needed to do it more efficiently, yet without losing any of the effectiveness. So Rajiv, that was the kernel. That was the essence of it.
Yeah.
And that inspired me to kind of start SalesHood, found SalesHood, and create the discipline and create the category that's now called sales enablement.
That's amazing. I think it's, so you see what's happening in the larger company. You have a massive team and you're like, wow, I can boil that into a platform and offer that to many, many people. So when you think about sales, revenue, go to market, what's the first place you'd start at? What, is there a framework that you use? And what have you found to be important for businesses that utilize that kind of framework?
Right. So listen, most companies are at different stages in their life cycle. And so you've got small companies that need to, what sales enablement means for a small company is very different than what it means for a large company. And so, first of all, you got to identify, where are you in terms of just the life cycle of the business? And it's not a one size fits all, Rajiv, right? But to answer your question specifically, it comes down to leading and lagging indicators. And what are the specific metrics and KPIs that a business is trying to solve? And this is what we do. We sit down with companies and we, try and help them. We try and guide them on implementing the right kind of sales enablement, because there is such a thing as bad sales enablement. Because if you're going to enable people and you're enabling them on the wrong thing and you're not solving the right metrics and KPIs, and I'll give you some examples, then you end up wasting time, wasting resources, reps leave, and you wonder, why aren't we hitting our numbers? Why aren't we growing? And so when we look at some of the leading indicators, these are things like, sure, it's time to revenue, it's time to ramp, but I want to be very specific, right? Let me just back up. The lagging indicators that most people kind of tend to focus on are quota, attainment, and win rates and sales cycle time. But Rajiv, those are lagging, right?
Yeah, that happens months and months after you've already started something. So you don't know if you're on the right path yet, right?
And if you're a B2B software company and you've got, kind of a 6 to 9 month sales cycle, and you've got someone who is, 12 to 18 month ramp time, like you're 2 years later when you find out this person wasn't a fit. So I want to look at leading indicators, and those leading indicators are things like, meetings booked, things like pipeline created and things like pipeline progression. And so, I think as leaders, sales and marketing leaders, think about how they're going to embrace sales enablement to ultimately achieve kind of great revenue outcomes. It's so critical from a framework perspective that you are getting aligned with your leadership team on what are the most important leading indicators and lagging indicators, and then build programs and invest on the leading indicators, and then the rest will follow.
Got it. That's a great way of looking at it, because like you're saying, it could be, if you do it the other way, you're going to burn 2 years and not know where you are. So now as you shift towards vertical, right, there's a shift towards vertical and digital interactions with customers.
Right.
What are the key skills and competencies that sales reps need to succeed in this new environment?
Right. And so we're talking 2025, we're talking, we're post-COVID, right. we're in a world now where some of the fundamentals in selling are increasingly more important. And, this, whenever I think about selling and sales acumen and sales skills, I always think of my father, right? Because, my dad is old school. Retail furniture store, taught me how to sell in Toronto where I grew up, and taught me the basics of, how you communicate with customers, how you share a customer, kind of tell stories to customers, and how you help customers kind of realize kind of the solution that you're trying to sell them, how it's going to fit into their home. Like literally, my dad sold furniture, right? And so like we would help our customers visualize. And so when we talk about 2025, right, we need to be curious. So it's so important that we're asking questions. It's so important that we are being authentically curious and asking the right questions, right? It's so important that when we are engaging with prospects, that we are curious, not just about kind of them, but their industry, their competition. And so we're doing the research ahead of time. And Rajiv, of course, AI can help. However, you know what? The best salespeople are rolling up their sleeves and they're focusing in on what's most important to the people that they're speaking with. So curiosity, storytelling.
Yeah.
And now in this age of, think about it. I think the stats are now buyers, when they show up, to that first call, they're already 60 to 70% the way through in their buyer's journey, right? And so you really have one shot. And so if I'm a salesperson, I got to make the most of that meeting. And I love this. How do you turn that meeting into momentum? And I like to believe that the pros out there, when that meeting happens, they're treating that meeting like it's the only meeting they're ever going to have with that prospect. You get one shot and you actually get 5 minutes. And in those 5 minutes, if you haven't set the agenda properly, if you haven't demonstrated, kind of that you're curious about their business, and if you're just pitching, then you know what? The customer's going to go to your competitor, right?
Right.
And so
we're talking about no one wants in the first meeting for someone just launching into their pitch, right?
No.
They want to know who you are, but they want to know you care about their business. And frankly, with the tools that we have today, they expect you to come in knowing quite a bit about them.
You have to, right?
You can't just do a big ass discovery call in the first minute. Yeah.
But in 2025, right, I think it's also interesting, right? Because we've got concepts like digital sales rooms, because we can share content ahead of time, because we can actually track kind of insights, right? So like Rajiv, let's pretend that I'm selling you, right? And I know you're CEO, and I know, your company, I know your company size, and I know you've got some interest in some sales solution issues, right? I could, if I'm a good salesperson, I could give you some information to read ahead of time. I could share with you a customer testimonial video. I could share with you some curated content that demonstrates to you that I've been thoughtful about your business. I've been thoughtful about you. Now, Rajiv, you may or may not decide to look at it, but guess what? If you do take a look at it, then when you join the call, and we're having a very, very kind of thoughtful, guided conversation. It's, hey, Rajiv, what'd you think of those stories? Oh my God, how did you, you nailed it.
Yeah,
or
nailed
maybe,
it for me, right?
Maybe you didn't watch it, right? So the best salespeople are curious. They're telling stories. They're really executing meetings like clockwork. And they're leveraging the before and the after of meetings in a very, very way, leveraging the latest in technology. And those are some of the things, right? I really think salespeople today, the best ones are just, they're amazing at execution.
Right.
And
so they're ready. They've ground it out and they pound it. Oh, go ahead.
No. The last skill, right? There's so much to say, but the last one, which is so underrated, is this is crazy. Sales communications, or just basic communications, like how you write an email, how you communicate, before and after a meeting. And I want to work with someone that can write easy to read English, plain English emails. So these are the skills, right? So if you're a salesperson out there and you're asking yourself, what's it going to take to be successful in 25? Curiosity, storytelling, communications, meeting management before, during, and after, and leveraging technology so that way you can share information with folks, right? These are some of the things. Every
touch point of a company matters, and that's where you put the the pedal to the metal, right? So
absolutely.
Now, like you mentioned a little bit about AI, and I know you've transformed your product as well to incorporate AI. So it's transforming businesses. We're spending more on AI. They plan to, if you're going to spend more on AI, you're going to have to, it's going to come from your IT budget. So you're probably going to spend less on other enterprise applications. How do you view this world? I mean, how do you view this kind of change that's happening? Do you expect people to spend less overall? Or are they spending more overall? Or are they taking it from one place and putting it in the other?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I've got some analyst information to share, and then I've got some real life use cases from our own customers to share. And, first, I think from a mindset perspective, organizations that are leaning into leveraging AI to help them become more effective and more efficient, and professionals, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a marketer, whether you're in sales enablement, whoever you are, if you're not embracing AI be more effective and efficient, then you will be outperformed by your competition and by your peers in the industry. So it's a heads up. If you're not already all over this, you're already behind.
Yeah.
And so when we look at kind of the discussion of like, are we displacing dollars? Like there's a stat I saw last week from Gartner that basically shared that, when I was at Salesforce, we were spending approximately $2,500 per rep per year on kind of everything that they needed to be successful. Just think about that, right? You do that across 5,000 salespeople, you get a feel for what the budget is. They're saying that by 2030, that spend is going to be 4x more, but it's not going to be more salespeople. It's going to be more AI solutions. And so companies are now looking at investing more, but using AI to get the teams to be more efficient. Now, Rajiv, more efficient in what? More efficient in research, more efficient in communications, more efficient in personalized selling, more efficient in curate. All those skills I talked about, those skills are increasingly more important, but now AI makes you more efficient. Now, a quick story with our customers. We analyzed 2024 data. So we've got an amazing set of customers, and we've got, we anonymized some data. And so we looked at efficiency, and then we looked at kind of the effectiveness, right? And so in 2024, our customer base saw a decline by 45% in the number of enablement people. Think about that for a second. 45% less enablement people. Now, you would think with 45% less enablement people, how much more enablement do you think? How much would enablement have gone down?
You would think it would be either a commensurate amount, or maybe there's some savings, like 20%.
Right? Like you got less people, you're going to do less enablement.
Yeah.
231% increase because of AI.
Because of AI tools.
Because, remember I shared a little bit about kind of that essence at Salesforce where we were doing pitch practice and we were running around the world and certifying people on the pitch. Now with AI and with AI role playing, you don't need to have a manager providing feedback. You don't need to have an enablement person. Salesperson logs in and it knows its calendar. The AI knows the calendar. It knows what meetings are coming up. It knows, and it can say, "Hey, Rajiv, it's been a while since you practiced your pitch. Why don't we go through it together?" And I can sit there and practice it 5-10 times and get like very thoughtful, consistent feedback. And so AI role playing was one of the top use cases for us in 2024. But it's incredible. 45% decline in efficiency, in resources, and a 231% increase. Real data, right?
So they're flipping it essentially from people to tools.
They're flipping it from people
to tools, and maybe getting even more practice and more confirmation and more coaching. And so really this is the idea.
And the benefit is faster time to revenue. So the customers,
how much faster are you seeing? So
we're seeing, let's actually look at a lagging indicator now, because after 12 months, we're seeing win rates bounce up from about 57 to north of 100% increase. Wow. Right? When you've got a sales team that is leveraging AI to practice, leveraging AI to personalize, and leveraging AI to actually close deals, they're winning more business 57 to 100% of the time.
That's amazing.
And one of our customers just got an email on Friday, and from Star Compliance. I can share this publicly. They shared it, and they said, like, in quarter, after leveraging AI, to kind of complement their whole kickoff experience, they saw a 10% lift in win rates, like in quarter.
That's amazing.
These are real numbers.
That's a big turnaround, right?
Yeah,
that's an
in
incredible,
quarter, not like 9 months later and like some correlation causal. This is like the only thing that changed was the reps were doing this 10 to 15 time practice.
That's amazing. And so then you can do that. You can monitor it. You can, you can have feedback on it. You can figure out what, and you can do great correlation. It's amazing. So what are some of the common pitfalls that companies should avoid when they're implementing these AI powered sales enablement tools? So how do you make sure that the tools are aligned with the strategy and objectives?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Not all AI is equal. And, I think first you have to trust your AI. And so, I think
what do you guys do to build trust?
Well, we guarantee to our customers that we have a private LLM per customer, and that And when a customer uses SalesHood's AI, it's content aware and organizationally aware, and it's a multi-tenant system and a multi-tenant infrastructure. So there's everything is protected, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like pointing your people to ChatGPT or Gemini and it's out there. It's not.
Yeah, same thing. Like I've had that concern when I've shown some of the demos of what we're building, and they're like, well, I don't want that stuff to go back to Gemini. I'm like, no, it's not going to go back to Gemini. We may be using Gemini or some equivalent, but you're going to get your own private LLM. That data is, or even however we implement it, your data does not get shared with the engines or with other customers. So.
Exactly, right. So trust. You got to make sure that it's only looking at your data and that it's not being shared in the public domain, right? So I'm leading with trust. Another lesson from Mark when it comes to kind of building trust with customers. I think another lesson for folks is, be careful when you're evaluating partners that it's really not a unified AI experience. It's not a unified data model. So if you've got a company that you're evaluating, you really want to look at their data model. Are they a company that acquired 6 to 10 companies? And then are you really going to get the lift and the benefit of AI? Because you want to start working with companies that have kind of a end-to-end solution across the life cycle of the solution that you're buying, you're evaluating, and it'll look at all the data. It'll look at all the content.
So it's the architecture versus marketecture. It's
the architecture, right? So
architecture versus marketecture, right? People will say, yes, we have a common name for my product, and it's really 10 different disparate tools that when you actually work with it, nothing works together, right? So if you're a best of breed solution and you do it right, you can actually make it look seamless in the way it's put together with other platforms. So there's all kinds of cool ways of doing that. So you're right, totally right. Let's talk about major account selling.
Okay, let's talk. I love it.
When I was in sales, I was early in my career. I went from engineering into technology sales. And one of the first things I did was learn all about strategic selling, major account selling. How do you think about that? From the point of view of, it's very different from one-to-one selling for one sales to one person to one customer, and that customer is the buyer, the user, et cetera, and the evaluator. Whereas you're in major account selling, you have a whole team. Right. And then a lot of times as part of leading that effort, it's not all on you as a salesperson. You're really the person that's driving a whole team of folks to sell with you. Right. So executives play a pivotal role in building relationships as part of this. So what are the most effective strategies for helping to prepare executives before sales and customer calls to ensure that there's great alignment in the way that sales process runs?
Yeah, we could spend a whole day on this topic. There's a lot here, Rajiv. So selling into big accounts, and ultimately trying to close these, whale, opportunities is isn't easy. And I think when we think about these large accounts, I'm going to start with there's an internal team and an external team. And the internal team, you got to make sure your team is aligned. And so if I'm a salesperson owning a strategic account, then, if I'm a professional, in my job and in my trade, and I'm really a pro here, and I want to make sure my team is aligned, right? So you're ensuring that there's always, clear roles of responsibility, who's on first, who's doing what. And if you're going to start pulling in internal people from the organization, then you want to make sure folks are aligned. Now, when you're closing these large deals, and we're talking, let's just quantify large, Rajiv.
Yeah.
Like what does large mean? Like million? Because it's depending, right? If you're an SMB.
Right, it depends. If a small deal, right, $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, is that a small deal?
That's, I'd say the bigger scheme of things. So let's just.
So, but you're talking about six figures.
Yeah, $1 million plus, $1 million plus.
Or the potential to drive millions of dollars a year for your company.
So if I'm a salesperson and I'm owning an account and it's my job to kind of pull in $1 million, I'm going to leverage my internal team, to ultimately help me, do the research, sell value, and build relationships, across the organization, right, that I'm selling to. Now, on the external side, right, what's happening today is now, there's a champion, there's an economic buyer, there's stakeholders, there's influencers, right? And you've got 10, 20, 30 people that are now going to participate. So as a salesperson, I not only need to align my team, I need to now find a champion and then truly align with that person and help them sell the solution that we're proposing into their business, right?
Right. This is the coach, right? The coach in the account. It could be your champion in the account. It could be a little bit of both, right? Yeah. And so you've got to help them sell for you.
You've got to help them. And listen, things like Medic helps a lot.
Medic, I think, just real quick, Medic is
a sales kind of process framework. It's kind of universal in the software industry. Metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process. Some people call it MEDPIC, and P is the paper process. I is implications of pain. C is competition. C is also champion. And some people have 3 C's, which the third C would be compelling event. And so when a sales leader in an organization embraces Medic, they use it to help align the internal team around the key plays you're going to run on the strategic account. And then ultimately it's a guide for how you're going to work with the champion, how you're going to win over the economic buyer. And tools like a mutual action plan, tools like a digital sales room really helps drive alignment at scale, right? Because now you've got 20, 30 people you're selling to, but you're never really going to know who they all are. So if you've got a champion that you've partnered with and they understand, kind of how you're going to help them solve their number one business problem, and they're truly bought in on you being kind of the primary, and you've got a great partnership here, right? Now you got to help them sell. How do you help them sell, Rajiv? You help them set up this digital sales room. You put all the demos in there, the stories in there. You got a mutual plan. And then they start inviting the stakeholders because they realize, wow, this is an amazing resource for my company to help us make a decision faster, right? And so I've just described kind of what a B2B strategic account selling process looks like. And I got a quick story to tell you, because the one thing I want everyone to understand is if you think you're selling your product when you're actually working $1 million plus deal, it's not your product, it's their top issue and the impact on that issue to their business. And, I think it's really important that you're focused in on solving problems. That's why curiosity is critical. That's why doing your research. That's why building relationships is critical.
Because you're always connecting back.
You're always connecting back
to their biggest problem. So while you're in the details of whatever you're trying to do, always help them connect back. And this also gets to the notion of when a lot of times these deals start, they move along and they don't seem to close. Right.
Right.
They don't close because
they get stalled.
There's not enough urgency for something. So like you talked about this notion of the compelling event, right?
Yeah.
So you have the compelling event, driving deal urgency. So what are the best ways to uncover that compelling event in those large accounts? Because many times it just goes along and everybody says they're in and there's nothing to drive them.
Yeah. Compelling event for is a really hard concept for sales teams, success teams, for organizations to really embrace, because for whatever reason, we all have happy ears. And like, for example, Rajiv, let's just say I was selling you and you needed help with a program. And you said to me, hey, I got to roll out this program by Jan 1. And I'd say, okay, great, Rajiv, let's talk about that. And I'd understand what the program is. I'd understand kind of the impact of you rolling out this program. And then in order for us, I'm going to use a word here, to co-create a compelling event, we need to really understand more about your business, your timelines, your internal, because most people think that Jan 1 event is a compelling event. It's actually not. You got to work backwards, and it's called a sequence of events. Because then I'd say, Rajiv, well, listen, if you're going to be live by Jan 1, this is so critical to your business. Let's go back in time here, right? That means we need to have a system, a pilot system, a proof of concept up and running, probably by the late summer, and the reason why I say late summer, because on Labor Day, then all of a sudden people,
you really got to map back, right? Because
you map back.
Well, first, I think what you're talking about is you got to understand when somebody says Jan 1, that may be the beginning of a calendar year or fiscal year or something, but in many companies, sometimes they blow past that date and they don't make a decision by that date. So you have to understand what is significant about the date. Is it a make or break for them?
Exactly.
Right? And then you're going all the way back and you have all this stuff that could get in the way.
Yeah. Well, by the way, you know what can get in the way? Here's the thing, right? Like if we don't work backwards and start anchoring around some internal dates that are important to your business, because Rajiv, I'm selling you, right?
Yeah.
You know your internal IT. You know how long decisions take.
Right.
You know how important it is to your CEO, to your decision team, that they're going to run a proof of concept before they're going to go widespread this thing. And so that means that we're doing a Q4 rollout. And if we don't insert that as a co-created, event,
right,
then you know what happens? Things happen, and maybe you do an internal solve, right? Maybe your IT team says, "Hey, you know what? We could probably build something." Maybe, or maybe the priority really isn't the top priority. Mm-hmm. But if I'm a salesperson, and if I'm working with you, Rajiv, and your executive team, and we're collaborating, and you know what, and if I miss that September date, right, and if you go silent on me in September, then at least I know. That's information.
That's
versus
right.
If we were tracking January and then I got no way to make up for it, then I've completely missed my number.
Exactly. And I find that on both sides, like there's the happy ears on the salesperson side, the happy ears on the executive side. We want to see that pipeline grow. We have numbers to hit. And then on the other side, the client thinks, I find this a lot, that the people we're selling to are very optimistic about their ability to push things through. They don't realize how many layers they have to go through, and who they have to persuade, and frankly, and you get annoyed at them, but it's not their fault. That's your fault. That's your job to help them understand that and to help them work together with you. So I love your notion of co-creation.
And by the way, like you've got a very large community of amazing marketers out there, and marketing does and should play an active role in sales enablement, right? Mm-hmm. And they do. They create playbooks, they create competitive battle cards. But here's something I'm not seeing enough marketers leaning into is documenting compelling events, documenting trigger events by role, by persona, and then driving urgency and providing those resources and assets. Like in terms of how to run
to help drive it.
Drive it.
Right. I think you always have to have, at least I find this in my world, you have a bunch of events that you can get more touches with or to force more interactions with at a senior and the actual user buyer. Let just because you sold the senior person on it doesn't mean the one that's actually going to use it is going to be on your side. Yes. What are you doing to wake them up? And that's market. A lot of that is marketing's job.
Yes.
And I find companies don't do that in terms of their buyer definition, in terms of understanding how important it is to accelerate the endpoint.
Yes.
So it's just huge.
And by the way, here's what Medic does, right? And Medic teaches people to have these kind of conversations with a champion. Mm-hmm. And therefore, Rajiv, when we get on a call and we've got a mutual action plan and we've written down these milestone dates, then I can get curious with you, Rajiv, and I can say, well, Rajiv, we've got this August 15th date, which is kind of the launch date. Yeah. So who else in your organization needs to be aligned with this date? And what other people do we need to make sure that this is going to, kind of meet their requirements? And you mentioned that Mary is the economic buyer. How aligned is this with her top priorities, right? And your answers will tell me and ultimately qualify whether this is real or not, this deal. And if we can't have that open conversation, 2-3 months before getting signature, and we're never going to get signature on an MSA or a contract, right?
Not for $1 million deal. No.
Not for $1 million. Or 10 million, a huge deal, right?
Whatever it is. Yeah. We have to be working together and have really open conversations. So I love this. It's like we're getting to share all of our best techniques. I love this.
Right.
It's great. You're awesome with this. So you get to live in it every day. So, I just wonder, if I go back to what got you to do what you wanted to do, what got you to this point, right? A lot of times some people are accidental entrepreneurs. Some people aren't. So did you always know that you wanted to work in this kind of technology field? Was there a specific moment? Was there a project that got you to go this way? While you were at Salesforce, or did you know from as a kid that this is the way you were going to go? You mentioned your father had a furniture business. Yeah. So how'd you discover this? What sparked you?
So discover what? You mean the entrepreneurial bug?
The entrepreneurial bug, and to go into something entrepreneurial with a technology platform.
When I was listen, watching my father, run a furniture store and build something from nothing. And my dad went bankrupt, and he had to redo it again. So I got to
That's
see him
hard.
rebuild from
Yeah.
nothing. It's hard, right? And I think, and that's something we celebrate, right? So I bring it up now because sometimes it happens. You have a bump in the road, and it's not that, but it's how you recover and what you do from it. I think is so critical. Listen, I always liked tech. I had a computer. I always liked video games. But when the internet kind of came around, I'm going to date myself now, but we're talking like the mid '90s, and when the net came around, and you remember like the way you used to connect to the internet through the dial tone, and I when I did my MBA, I decided that I wanted to do an entrepreneurial component to my MBA, and where we actually partnered with a local digital agency, and that was kind of that was one of my credits, and so I was there working with this quote unquote internet company, and I remember we were in this is '94. We're in the room and we're evaluating their company. And the ultimate credit is to give them a business plan so they can actually turn their digital agency into a real business, and the CEO kind of wrote on the board like e-commerce and said here's a word. Can we just talk about what this word means? And that's when I knew that we were so early in this internet world, and that I really wanted to be a part of it. And I knew I needed to be connected to it. And so I left Toronto and moved to San Francisco because I wanted to be where I thought kind of the heart and soul of technology was, software technology, Silicon Valley. And I knew I was coming down here to start something. I knew I was coming down here to build legacy. And I worked at a startup, worked at Oracle, and was always creating, but always had this itch. And it wasn't until that moment when I realized, you know what? There's a market here for sales enablement. And it actually, I can leverage all of my life's experiences to give back to the sales world, to give back to companies so they can actually execute sales, as best as they can. And that was it. Right. And
did it sort of coalesce with you while you were at Salesforce? It's there was this magic moment.
Oh, for sure.
Did you always go in and say, I want to be an entrepreneur, or did the entrepreneurial moment come to you?
Well, the golden handcuffs of Salesforce.
It's hard, right? You're getting options,
it's hard.
getting RSUs.
Absolutely, and did very well. And I'm super grateful to the company, to Mark, to our customers, and to just right time. It was 2005, right? When I left Oracle, folks at Oracle were looking at me like I was crazy. Like, why would you leave and go to that SaaS cloud? It's not a real thing. Literally, that's what they told me in my exit interview.
Yeah.
And I go back to my dad. He always reminded me, don't forget where you're from. Don't forget the basics of selling. And I think I always had him in my ear. And I speak
always, is that your voice? Your entrepreneurial
I speak
voice?
to him all the time. Right? My dad's still going, and I love him. And he's a very, very, very big part of my life. So is my mom, and so is my family. Right? I want to make sure that everyone. But you know what? I think I'm fortunate that my wife. I think when we sat down and I said, listen, I really want to build this because I think we can really change the way companies go to market. We can really change kind of the sales profession and elevate it in a whole new way with tech. And this is even pre-AI, right? It was mobile, it was social, it was data, right? It was just I
think that in an interesting way, you've by being there before AI, as AI comes in, you're so embedded in that domain knowledge of what works and what doesn't, right? Your folks have been writing code. They've been developing it in a particular way. And all of a sudden AI comes about, and now it's more about your expertise and knowledge and being applied in a dramatically faster way than ever before, right? So now you're already in, and now you got to make the transformation, but you're embedded in that knowledge, and you're in a community in Silicon Valley and around the world where that's coming at you day in and day out. So you can jump on it quickly.
It's true. You asked me a question earlier and you said, what should companies look for when they're looking to kind of lean into AI? And, you do bring up a great point. The idea that an AI is purpose built for specific use cases, for specific outcomes. I think trust is important. I think unified data model is important, but I think being purpose built is probably number one. And yeah, we've got, years of experience living it at Salesforce, and then, a decade here with SalesHood.
That's awesome.
And it's a unified data model. So it enables us to go real fast. And there's so much great AI out there, but you know what? You got to ask yourself, what problem are you trying to solve? How quickly do you want to solve it? And what resources do you have to actually bring it to market in your go-to-market? And those are questions I'd be asking myself. So
awesome.
I appreciate that recognition. Thanks, Rajiv.
Would AI be your biggest change that you've seen over the career? You mentioned the internet earlier. Is there like a surprise being in Silicon Valley that's come, just thinking broadly over the course of your career here in Silicon Valley?
The big mega trends, I think, well, first, like SaaS, right? The idea that because I don't know if you remember ASP, there's application service providers.
That's right.
Right. That was kind of like in '99 when I first came down here, we were building server farms, and that doesn't scale, right? And so, what Benioff did with Salesforce was it was CRM, but it was really proving out multi-tenancy. And it was kind of, so that was right? That was a big shift, right? And then another big shift, that I remember was, I think mobile, right? Mobile is so big. And I think, you remember when Steve Jobs came out with the iPad, like that was like, whoa, you mean you can like have your computer on an iPad and you can run around. And so mobile was big. And then social, right? All of a sudden, we're social, right? And then data became so central to the story. So these were all, super, super interesting, big mega trends that we all experienced. But I think what AI does, and why I think AI is the biggest, is it actually goes back further in time. And I think we could take the best of what we had in the 60s and the 70s and 80s with solution selling. I'm talking about sales right now, right?
Of course.
We can take the best and the promise of automation. And we didn't really quite realize the benefits of automation. I think, but Gen AI and AI now takes kind of the best of old school, the best of new school, right? Data, video, mobile, right? And brings it all together and delivers it to people like in milliseconds, right? Because we created this world where there's so much data, there's so much content. And now we've confused people. It's almost like paralysis a little bit because, customer facing selling time has dropped. Productivity has dropped. Quota attainment, all these benefits that we'd hoped to achieve haven't yet happened. And now we are realizing the promise, because now if you're leveraging AI in your business, you can get answers to questions like you've never before. Your team can get feedback on things. Your buyers are going to be able to get answers to their questions. And this is in milliseconds. So to me, this is the biggest shift.
This is the biggest. Yeah. So the biggest. But I like how you lay it out, Eli, how it all comes together, right? You wouldn't have it if all the systems weren't connected together. If you didn't have this ASP or cloud infrastructure, you didn't have the ability to get access to information from wherever you are, to collect data from all these different touch points. So it has to come together, and AI enables it to come together super quickly. So that's a great way of putting it. All right, Eli, now it's time for the game. So you may not know this, but this is a special feature of the Spark of Ages. So welcome to the Spark Tank, where we ignite the power of association and uncover the hidden connections within the minds of today's most influential leaders. And today we're thrilled to have Elay Cohen, a master of sales strategy and the architect of revenue growth, joining us. So today isn't your typical sales pitch. This is where the art of persuasion meets the spontaneity of thought, where sales enablement collides with the power of intuition, where a single word can unlock a cascade of insights. Our minds are wired to connect the dots, to find patterns of the seemingly random, and often it's the unexpected leaps that we discover the most profound truths. So think of it as a journey through the landscape of your experience, where each word acts as a stepping stone, revealing the underlying principles that have driven Eli's success. This is the ultimate word association challenge, where every response could uncover a new approach to sales excellence. So basically, Eli, here's how it works.
Okay, tell me. I love it, because you got me excited. I'm curious.
I know you're dying. Here's the big one. I throw out a word. You respond with the first word that comes to your mind. No filters, no hesitation. Then I'll respond to your word. And we'll keep this chain of associations flowing for at least 3 or 4 volleys. And the only rule that we have to embrace is spontaneity, to let your mind make these unexpected leaps. So ready to see where your mental agility takes us, Eli?
Oh, yeah, I'm ready to see where this goes.
Let's do it. Here we go. Pipeline.
Money.
Close.
Open.
Scale.
Sales.
Upsell.
Cross-sell.
Customer journey.
Buy more.
Okay. IPO.
SalesHood.
SalesHood. Love that. All right. Okay. We'll do it. Here's the next one. This is
how do we do on that last one?
Our listeners should tell us. They'll comment and make fun of us. We always have fun with these things.
Okay, I love it. Let's do it again. Let's do another one.
Objection.
Handling.
Concern.
Problem solving.
Interaction.
Love customers.
Build relationship.
For sure.
I love it. Okay, great way to close that one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Story.
Customer.
Brand.
Apple.
iPhone.
Love it.
Brilliant.
Mind.
It's when I think about Apple, I think as you do, it's like we talk about merging with devices. Haven't we already merged with a device called our iPhone?
Right, we have, and there will be a time in our lifetimes, I believe, and for better or for worse, that it'll be even more integrated. I think we're getting there. I think hopefully it keeps us on a good path.
All right, here's another good one. Failure.
Inevitable.
Hurts like hell.
Oh God.
How about this? Hurts so good.
Yeah, I'm John Cougar Mellencamp.
We're back in the 80s.
So good. It is John Cougar Mellencamp, right? I think it is.
Yeah, John Cougar Mellencamp. Hurt so good. Yeah. Come on, baby. Make it hurt so good. Sometimes love doesn't feel like it should. So there you go. Failure is what gets us there. All right. Here's the last one we'll do.
Yeah.
Momentum.
Keep it going.
Sales cycles.
Shorter.
Relentless.
Push.
Pull.
Marketing.
Nice. Complementary.
Services.
Scale.
Execution.
Measure success.
KPIs.
Oh, I like that. KPIs. Measure success with KPIs all the time. How often do you make your team look at the KPIs? Is it on a weekly basis as part of your weekly calls?
So I learned from my time at Salesforce the V2 MOM process: vision, values, methods, obstacles, and metrics. So we created a V2 HOOD process: vision, values, and objectives and outcomes. And so we track them. And so I am sending out a weekly note to my team, sometimes video, where we're highlighting how are we doing on our V2 HOOD and on our top metrics and KPIs on a weekly basis. We look at them on an e-staff call, weekly, and these metrics range from pipeline metrics to adoption metrics to sales metrics to engineering metrics around things like
it's a great way to go, because I think then people can see that, and when they see it, they start looking for those hidden gems that can help boost the numbers or just notice things that they can drive back in. And I have that expectation of my team that whatever metrics you're supposed to drive, you're gonna grind on them, because inside of that is some magical moment. Because I'm always inspired by my clients. Like we have clients that are doing what you would consider, many of them are super high tech, cool AI companies, but some of them are basic businesses. And the difference between one person and another is the one that really grinds it.
I remind my team on a regular basis. We do monthly hoodie calls with monthly kind of all hands calls with the company, and I'm constantly reminding my team, here are the 10 metrics and KPIs that are critical to our business, critical to our growth, critical to our success. Like if you're not directly impacting one of them, you got to talk to your manager. You got to talk to me, right? This is like, you got to be connecting yourself, not like if you're not impacting one of them, let me know, because then you're doing something off.
That's important.
So critical, Rajiv. And I'm sure we run our businesses very similarly that way.
Well, we have the aspect of being involved in the day-to-day operations. You're probably helping to drive and close deals like I am. And, but you also have to be that executive that gets your people to look at focus on what they're supposed to nail, focus on what they're supposed to do. All right. We always ask guests like you, Elay, to name a historical person, event, or person that inspires you.
Right.
And early on in the questionnaire, you answered Steve Jobs and Taylor Swift.
Right. Wow. Two different names. That's
Give me more.
I love it. So, I've always admired kind of the creativity and the vision that has come out of Steve Jobs and Apple, and how he created innovative and then left and then came back and took it to new heights. And for him to be able to imagine a world where you're carrying everything with you, video, audio, phone, and this simple iPhone device, I think, has transformed living. And to me, that's ultimate legacy. And in a minimalistic form that is just beautiful, whether it's an iPhone, a Mac, an iPad, and whatever else comes out of that world, I think has always inspired me. And when we communicate, I've always got like the Jobs filter on, less words, less graphics, just simple. And so that's always been, an inspiring factor for me. And then, and most people have someone like that, right? And you probably wouldn't expect an executive like me to say, but also I've got this Taylor Swift kind of energy, right? And my younger daughter was begging me to go to the Taylor Swift conference. Look at me, Taylor Swift.
You can't leave it.
Concert.
Well, probably at that concert, you were just entertained. It probably was a learning adventure for you.
You know what? And this is where I'm going to take you, because, and for whatever reason, I think it turns out a friend of mine, he ended up having tickets because I couldn't justify for Taylor Swift $3,000 a ticket, right? That was crazy. And it turns out he had tickets at cost. I'm like, boom, let's go. So I became a student of Taylor Swift and listened to her music, right? And so got it, right? So the music is interesting. And so, but that wasn't really the big learning for me. So there we are, my daughter and I were in the stadium, 50,000 people. And all of a sudden, it's 5 minutes before Taylor Swift comes out. And I couldn't hear myself think. And in the room, the stadium, the energy, like it was like amazing. And for the next 3 hours, and everyone stood up, everyone was dancing, and through the art of visual storytelling, Taylor Swift kept us all kind of enthralled, like eating out of the palm of her hand. Like it was incredible. And I became a Swiftie.
Wow.
Right. And I became,
So you went through it for 3 hours. 3 hours is a lot of time to be at to be
3 plus.
listening to one artist. And it kept you going.
Absorbing, assimilating this experience, and then to leave and realize that this was a movement, and then to watch Taylor Swift now, like taking a step back as an entrepreneurial genius, to turn this property into a movie, to turn this property into so many other ways for her to just, kind of continue to drive her mission and her vision of how she wants to elevate, teenagers and elevate the music industry. And, love or hate Taylor Swift, what she's done is absolutely. And I was on a plane next to a CFO. Keep him nameless. And
you may not want to come out as a Swiftie. Is that what
I'm going to keep him nameless? And when he said, and all of a sudden, you were small talk on the plane, and plane takes off, and I've got my Taylor Swift playlist, and I'm looking at the song Miss Americana that I'm listening to. Yeah. I didn't mean to look. I look. His phone is sitting down. There's an empty seat between us, and the same song.
No way.
Miss Americana. No way. I tap him on the shoulder. I'm like, and I show him my phone. he unbuttons his shirt and he's got a Taylor Swift t-shirt underneath.
Whoa.
And he tells me a story that he gets up on stage at his kickoff and he grabs the mic. Everyone's laughing because his walk-up song is a Taylor Swift song. And he says, here's a performer, here's an entrepreneur that generated $1 billion plus in revenue without AI and got the whole room laughing hysterically. And so boom. And there are many, many, many CEOs in Silicon Valley that are they're also Swifties.
They're also Swifties. And I think it's that respect over her drive for perfection and connection.
Yeah, creativity.
Creativity. And
creativity. Like think of the community she developed.
No, my daughter is, she's a crazy Swiftie. She knows every song.
Well, I think we have the next time Taylor Swift's on tour, it looks like we've got a date night with my daughter and your daughter, and we'll make it happen.
That sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like a lot of fun. I like how she is so genuine. She does consistently try to connect with her audience. So that's all those. Yeah. She's not just trying to monetize. So I think that's brilliant. You're also, by the way, into music yourself. You're a DJ.
I've had some fun.
I
went
to your office. You had tons of old vinyl hanging up on the walls.
Old school DJ, soulful, funky house. I love female vocals. I love tribal music. I love when like disco and soul come together and you can close your eyes and you're on the dance floor and you're dancing and you're vibing and you're feeling it and you're doing that all night long. Like that's a happy place for me. I've DJ'd at Burning Man. I've DJ'd at a lot of underground lofts in San Francisco. I've DJ'd at a bunch of clubs. And it's that moment at like 2, 3 in the morning when I can look around, everyone's just going. Nice. And I'm helping making that happen. I love that. And, I'm committed to DJing again and, doing it, bringing the worlds together. How do I bring the sales community together with go-to-market, together with my vinyl, and just create this amazing experience for people to let loose and have fun?
That's awesome. That's awesome how it all comes together. So now, if you were to, you mentioned a lot about how you grew up. If there was a billboard with any message to your younger self, what would it say?
You know what? Always trust your instinct. Always trust your gut. It's never failed me.
I love it.
Always trust your gut.
And is that like when push comes to shove, when even though there may be data all over the place, it's informing your intuition? Sometimes
data has convinced me to make the wrong decision. And where had I trusted my gut from the beginning, the decision would have been the right one.
Why is that? Can you give me an example?
Well, listen, Salesforce, right? So leaving Oracle, going to Salesforce, leaving Salesforce, starting SalesHood, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think these are examples, right? I think sometimes look at Steve Jobs, right? Like there's no data that would have said an iPhone is going to change the world. Right. You just got to trust your gut, right? Like I think when we decided to build out features at SalesHood, sometimes all the data in the world and all the customer feedback in the world will kind of point us in another direction. But my gut just tells me, a very specific example is digital sales rooms, right? Did salespeople need another sales tool?
Yeah.
Did buyers need another tool? Do they need a place to actually collaborate? And no, like they never would have raised their hand. However, today, salespeople that are using technology to collaborate with their buyers in this new category called digital sales rooms, they're winning more deals, and they're building better relationships, awesome. Right?
Yeah.
No one would have told me to do that. The data told me not to do it, right? But we had to do it. And it's actually the future of my business. So
that's super cool.
So many examples.
Yeah. And I think when you go back to your entrepreneurial example, Eli, you're talking about the expected value of moving from one company to another. If you already have, and Silicon Valley is very good at locking you up, especially the bigger ones. They understand the game, and they give you this expected value equation that makes much more sense than it is to go strike out on your own. And you went with your gut, and you went with what was interesting for you. So
I'll tell you one more example, one more interesting one. When we were like, listen, we're mostly self-funded as a business, and we were doing the rounds up and down the peninsula talking to VCs, and the VCs were telling me, no joke, this is 2014, 2015, that the sales tech market isn't a big enough market for standalone companies to be successful. That's what they were telling me.
Holy crap.
Therefore, if you want to take SalesHood, maybe take the sales out of Hood, maybe call it Hood, and maybe go do like employee engagement and employee training, then maybe we'll fund you. I'm like, are you kidding me?
No.
There are 15 million salespeople that need a tool to actually sell. There's like, and so anyway, there's another example for you, Rajiv,
I love
that
that.
I appreciate.
That is fantastic. And you've built self-funded since, which is amazing to do because you're getting your validation every day, right? So
Every day.
you got to go keep fighting. Okay. What's your personal moonshot?
I try not to distract my mind into too many things outside of the focus of what we're doing. So I don't get an opportunity to kind of explore what I'm about to share right now. But I'm going to share it because, sometimes when you put things out there, you increase the chances of it happening.
It'll manifest. It'll manifest.
Yeah. Listen, again, we're maniacally focused on continuing to grow SalesHood, and we're looking for ways to grow, and we've got a whole bunch of cool stuff happening. But like, I got this dream, right? I love community, and I also love concepts of sustainability, and I want to create a community, almost like a kibbutz, a kibbutz-like community, Cali kibbutz, I've called it in my head, where people can come together. You know what? You want to come hang? You want to get away from it all? Come to Elay's. Our Cali kibbutz, right? And this is a place. Yeah. This is a place. It's close to nature, so it's probably on the coast somewhere. You want to be able to smell the sea, be at one with nature, and it's a community. Still forming the idea here, Richie. But I'll hold retreats for sales executives. Yes, I'll hold retreats for startups. Yes, I'll hold family retreats. But I really want a place. As I'm looking at the next chapter of my life, again, I'm not trying to get distracted.
That's right.
But like a place where people can come, have a destination, safe place, be at one with nature. And you know what? There'll always be great food in the kitchen. We'll always be hanging outside. There'll always be fires going and fire pits. And guess what? Vinyl will always be playing too. We'll always be playing great music. But it's just a great place to bring people together. And that's really where I'm thinking of what's next for us here.
I can't think of a better way to close this episode of Spark of Ages. So Elay, that was just beautiful. I so enjoyed talking with you today. So this was
God, so fun. And Rajiv, you're always invited, right? There'll always be, and by the way, there'll always be.
I have a place to go. I always want a place to go.
It's going to have like a main house, but there'll be a bunch of these like smaller houses where people can come and hang out for some time too. So you're always welcome, Rajiv. And I really appreciated your questions and this conversation. It's super fun. It's great to kind of get into it a little bit. And
no, I love it. I love what we're doing here. This is a great way for us to spread the message of what it takes to build innovation, what it takes to take what you believe in and get it out there in front of folks. And Elay, you're an excellent example of that. So
thank you so much.
So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Elay is definitely a true entrepreneur or a true pro. I think if there's any message that I can take back and share with all of you, it's typically when you're doing these sorts of companies, especially technology companies, the first thing you think about is how do I get funding and how do I build from that? And you would think a guy like Elay, who comes with a fantastic, phenomenal high pedigree background, working at really the company that turned sales into software, right? And is known for it, is of course built much more than that. Easily get around and grow. And, the mentality wasn't there at the time. So he went and forged ahead and built his company up and said, yeah, it doesn't matter. I may not need your capital, but I'll keep going. And he's had to compete against many well-funded competitors. And if you look at his customer list, it's remarkable. So it's a testament to his belief, his drive, his desire to make this type of connection happen so that companies can be much more efficient and much more effective in terms of bringing their innovation or their products to others. That's what I take away. And the fact that he's competing and adding AI to it and still adding great clients and growing, it's amazing. And plus, he's just a great guy to be around. So, I encourage you, very approachable, really easy to talk to. How he appeared today is how he is in normal life. So I think that's something really awesome. And to hear him get excited about Taylor Swift, it's remarkable because you can appreciate that artistry at multiple levels. I just want to make sure when you listen to these types of conversations, you let me know how we're doing with them. I want to know when you're commenting on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Feel free to give me feedback. And there's ways of getting to me individually, or you could just leave it out there. It really makes a difference for me. So take a moment, rate it, comment. We're everywhere podcasts can be found. So the show is produced by Sandeep Parikh and Anand Shah. Anand has really done a fantastic job of working right now with me. Sandeep has been dealing with the LA fires and his impact on his life and his family. And he's one of hundreds of thousands of people dealing with the same problem. And it's incredible what he and others have to go through. I just went to a fundraiser last week put on by a common friend for LA, and it's great to see how much response there is for this. And it's only going to get more difficult as these folks rebuild their lives. Production assistance is by Taryn Talley. It's edited by Sean Marr and Aidan McGarvey. I'm your host, Rajiv Parikh from Position Squared, an AI-focused growth marketing company based in Silicon Valley. Come visit us at position2.com. This is an effing funny production, and I really look forward to seeing you next time. Remember, folks, be ever curious.